Cool. Yeah, I know it's post-lunch, so it's going to be a little difficult for everyone to be awake, but I'm going to try my best to make this as interactive as possible, just so that we're not zoning off. And I'm going to set a timer for myself because I can talk hours about stakeholder alignment and stakeholder management. And truth be told, I think since morning, I've been hearing this word stakeholder alignment, stakeholder management, more than I believe I would have heard Dracarys being told in Game of Thrones. So that's how much I've been hearing about it. So let's get into it. Let's talk about stakeholder management. Let's get into like basics of it, and then we can get into some tactics and practical and actionable tips that I would want to share with the audience here on stakeholder alignment. Okay, so let's do a quick check here. Cool. So a little bit about myself. My name is Sabah, and I transitioned my career from software engineer to a product manager. I'm an alum of Cornell University, which is in New York. I have varied experience from travel industry, mainly e-com and travel industry, and then core e-com, where I've led product in subscription programs, loyalty programs in e-com, which was my stints with Peapod and Walmart, and now I am with consumer growth team at Yelp. So my focus has been mainly on the B2C side, though I did do B2B. I think my love for B2C has just remained and will continue to grow. Outside work, my hobbies are more artsy and science. I love traveling, I love painting, and I'm more of into exercise with kickboxing until I sprained my leg. And I love making candles. That's a side hustle that I run just for me to de-stress with some medicinal benefits with my candles. So that's me. Let's get into stakeholder management and alignment. The agenda for today I have is I'll do a bit of introduction of what stakeholder alignment is, what and why do we need this, what are the different types of stakeholders that I have got an experience with, and how can we work with these stakeholders with some practical tips. And I'll end with main important key takeaways that I really want to focus on, and we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A in the end. If that sounds good, let's get into it. Yeah. Because I said I want to make this an interactive session, I'd love to know what do we think and who do we think is a stakeholder. You can feel free to raise your hand. I know everybody's talking about stakeholders since morning, so I'd love to know how do we perceive or what do we think who is a stakeholder? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great answer. I think you've really nailed down like who are the stakeholders that we work on a day-to-day basis as a product manager. But I'm interested to know if in the audience has, what comes to your mind when you hear the word stakeholder? Somebody who sponsors your product. Okay, okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. That's a great answer. Thank you. Bingo, yeah. So I think all of them are great answers. I'll put it as simple as this. Anyone and everyone who has a say in your product. It's as simple as that. And if we get into more detailed definition, if I may say, it's more specifically who has a veto power that they can prevent your work from launching, your product from launching. And each stakeholder can represent any part of your business. And this is more specifically how stakeholder and product management comes into play. I have this little meme here, which I really want us as product managers to avoid, where we list down all the features, we work relentlessly to score them, and then just throw it away. And then we just do what the upper management tells us. I really think we should be moving away from this way of working and work more as a collaborative, more in collaboration with the stakeholders. To Bill's point, the different stakeholders that I have seen and worked with vary in different spectrums, right from the executive C-levels, who are our CEOs, to business teams, to development teams, to sales teams, to marketing teams, to legal teams, to compliance teams, to customer support team, to customer success team, and on and on. Yeah, so there is a laundry list of stakeholders that we can mention as we are working with our products. Okay, so what and why do we have to get stakeholder alignment? This is a very famous question as well. And what do I mean by stakeholder alignment? First one here, I would say, is the company-wide vision. It's really important for us to be aligned on what are we trying to achieve as a company. And what are the assumptions, the worldwide assumptions that we have listed out, have to be clarified very well with our stakeholders. I have seen in my experience that when you are not explicit with your assumptions, there are assumptions that have been clouded up, and that can result to a risk at a later point of your time in your product launch. Next one is the outcomes to achieve. What are the outcomes you are driving towards for your company and your product? And the last one is what are the outputs that you're working towards getting your outcomes that you want to achieve. So this is 4 core pillars that you have to get alignment on with your stakeholders as a product manager. And I have also learned this a hard way, so I'm hoping the audience can get a sense of why we want to get alignment on this. Because without alignment, you are building your own vision of product, which can be a disaster. Just imagine you have tons of teams working in your company, and everybody is working in their own siloed versions, then you're not going to meet the goal of your company. Factors that really weigh in your stakeholder involvement. Any guesses? We have spoken about the first factor quite a few times in our morning talks, so I'd love to know if anybody has an idea as to what really impacts the stakeholder involvement in your team. It might be a tricky one, I get that. So let me give an example. The first one is the size of the organization. I think we heard this multiple times in the morning talk, where if you're in a small organization versus if you're working in a large organization, the involvement of the stakeholder really varies quite incredibly. If you're working in a product-led / business-led / sales-led company, the involvement of your stakeholders still vary very variedly. And why do I say that? For example, product-led companies are companies who acquire customers through your products. Business-led organizations are who acquire customers through the business that they get. And sales-led is something that you are going to be selling through your sales processes, which require you to give one-on-one assistance to your clients, and it's more suited towards large target complex enterprise organizations. So the way your company is structured and how each of these teams, the way your company is structured and how your organization is defined really defines how much of stakeholder involvement will you have in your product. And the last one, which comes up multiple times as well, if your company culture is tops down versus bottoms up. In my experience, I've been with Walmart and now I'm at Yelp, and there is quite a different approach of how stakeholders are involved when you're in a tops down versus a bottoms up. I think we already spoke about this. We heard this in the morning as well. When you're working in a tops down cultured company, there is the executive who bring out the vision for you, and they are pretty much heavily involved in what you're building and what your vision and roadmap is. But if you're working in a bottoms-up company, you can drive, you own the product, and you're working in collaboration with the stakeholders to build your product. So that's like the varied stark differences that I have seen with respect to the culture of the company. So what is PM's responsibility towards stakeholders? It's as simple as, and it sounds simple, trust me, it's not, convincing each of the stakeholders that you not only understand the issues, but you're committed to coming up with solutions that not only work for the customers, but work well for the stakeholder as well. So this is the primary responsibility of a product manager while working with a stakeholder. And let's get this honest. We have to do this sincerely. I have seen so many times where product managers go into a meeting with stakeholders with the mindset that this is more like a one-way conversation where we're either getting thoughts from the top, or it's us informing the stakeholder. For a good product culture and for a good product team, you have to do it very sincerely to collaborate with the stakeholders and make it more like a feedback/collaborative environment so that you can launch your products with good stakeholder alignment. So I'd want to drill into types of stakeholders. I have this framework which, seems like it's a little misaligned, but I have this framework that I use very often, and it has really helped me, and I want to share this. And this framework is how important are the stakeholders for your product to launch, and how aligned are they for your product to launch. And this also helps you understand how much time and effort you want to be spending with these stakeholders for your goals, for you to achieve the goals. So this framework also, I suppose, will help you influence how you would work with your stakeholders. Before I get into this, I do want to make a disclaimer that it's often seen, and it's a true honest fact of product management, that there are stakeholders that come up and tell you that you have to build this and you have to do it. But keeping that aside, we are looking to collaborate with stakeholders by using this framework. So the first one is advocate. I love the way the last letter actually goes down. But yeah, the advocates are the ones who are most important for you and are aligned with your product goal. And these are the stakeholders that would back you up and that would stand with you for any product review you have, product idea you have, or the launch of your products. And why would anybody do this? First one, something that I have seen, the advocates are being told from the execs that this is an important feature, let's do it, let's back it up. That's the first reason. The second reason is the stakeholder is getting value out of the product that you are working on and you are launching. So they are going to be perceived to be good if you get a successful product out. So that's the second reason. And the third one is you've built an awesome relationship with them, you have a great rapport with them, and they're ready to back you up. And that's the trust that you have built with them. So these are the three reasons why you can get your stakeholder advocate for you and stand for you every time. So just to understand how much effort you want to be spending, you definitely want to be trying your stakeholders to get your stakeholders in this quadrant. And you should be reading your stakeholders and trying to get them aligned to you and back you up. So the next one is supportive. Supportive stakeholders are aligned to you, but they're less important. So they find value in what you're building, but they're not really inclined to speak up in every meeting or in any review that you have. So just to give example, these might be customer success teams or customer support teams or any QA teams that really, they find value in what you're building, but it's not really important for them. But it's good to have these on your side as well. One tip or suggestion that I would give is do not forget them. Have them in your product announcement emails, thank them in your press releases so that they're going to be aligned with you even for your future products. The next one is the cautious set of stakeholders. These stakeholders are less important, but they are misaligned. So these stakeholders are going to be not very vocal about it, but since there is a misalignment, there stands a risk of them standing up at any of your reviews, raising their hand and saying, this is something that I'm not aligned to, can you explain me why? So try and read these try and read these stakeholders and try and understand what and why are they misaligned. Because they are less important and you have like tons of work as a product manager, you have to prioritize your calendar. I would suggest that do not spend a lot of time. Try and understand why are they misaligned, give it your best shot. But if you are not having that alignment, alert your manager. Tell your manager that this is one stakeholder that I feel can turn out to be a risk, but I do not want to spend a lot more time because I have XYZ tasks to complete. So these are the cautious stakeholders. The last but not the most important one are the danger stakeholders. I call them danger, feel free to use any word, but these are the stakeholders who are important to your work and your product launch, but they are misaligned. So you need to, I would suggest to spend a lot of time with these stakeholders, try and understand why are they misaligned, gather some data points to get them on your side. You ideally want to move this danger stakeholders to your advocate stakeholders. So try and get some data points that would help them align to you. Try and work, something that has worked for me, and this is my experience, try and work in your body language and your tone. You'll have to read the stakeholder and see how vulnerable or how open and transparent can you be with these stakeholders to align on your goals, or do you want to be really confident and come up with a plan and just discuss that out straight with these stakeholders. So you'll have to read the person, you'll have to read the why as to why, the why part of why he's not or she's not aligned to you, and make them feel valued and spend some time to get these danger stakeholders into the advocate stakeholder bucket. So this is a framework that has worked for me, and I've also read about this in few books, so feel free to use it. So getting into what I spoke about, the types of stakeholders, let's get into some practical tips and some actionable takeaways that I would want to share. First one is, we definitely don't want to do this where we want to be telling our stakeholder, I don't want your idea. We want to be doing this. We want to be aware of all the stakeholders and know their goals and why they really care about their role in our product. What stake do they have in our product, and work with them to get the alignment. So the second practical tip is, once we have identified who our stakeholders are, and it's probable that every project or every product feature that you're working on, your stakeholders are going to change. So you have to identify who are your stakeholders, who are the stakeholders that are important to you during that feature or product that you're working on. Sit down and talk to them, listen with them, have coffee chats, have one-on-ones with them, and try to explain to them that the better constraints you have, the better solutions you can come up with, and be as transparent and open you can with them. So the third and the fourth one, I want to get this together because it's very important that we bring the stakeholders at every point of our journey in our product launch. From discovery to strategy planning to execution, we want to get them along with our journey so that we don't run into risks. And commit to previewing your solutions during discovery with all your stakeholders. An example that I would want to provide is, at Walmart, we were working to launch this huge feature. And there were 3 domains that were involved to get this product feature to launch. And we had alignment from all the domain product teams, all the domain business teams, and we had all the stakeholders' involvement till the point we were done with our planning and started off with our execution. And once we got into execution, we got a little light and said, okay, let's get the product out, and then we'll get the stakeholders involved again. And then we skipped the part of execution. And the time came when we had to send out a product announcement email. And when we sent that out, so to our surprise, we got an email back saying, hey, this is something that we have as a concern, and we cannot launch this product unless we have solved this. Boom. We had the stakeholder involvement till the point where we had started off execution. And then there was a concern that was raised at the end of the product life cycle. We took a step back, we identified what the concern was. It took a few more days for us to understand what the concern is and add it to our launch time, but that's the risk that you run if you do not involve your stakeholders at every stage of your life, stage of your product launch. Okay, I'll just do a quick time check. Okay, so this is how a PM's calendar looks, no doubt about this, full of calendar invites and meetings. But I'm going to add a few more meetings to your calendar. Please meet with your stakeholders one-on-one. It's definitely required for you to meet your stakeholders. This might add approximately 3 to 4 hours a week to meet your stakeholders, but this is going to actually reduce 5x the time, which you might have to meet later if you do not do it at a regular cadence. And some tactics to follow is the stakeholder mapping or the framework that I shared, which will help you prioritize your stakeholders and also prioritize your time that you want to spend with these stakeholders. So the sixth and the seventh tip I have is get into continuous product review management mode. This is something that I learned from one of my coaches. And the idea here is to have concentric circles of sharing your product roadmap, your vision, where you meet with smaller audience, get feedback, adjust and iterate, and then increase your size of the audience. You might have to do this 2, 3, at least a few times before you cover the entire set of audience. But this helps you get buy-in to your product before you have your final meeting. So my 7 points is getting a buy-in or alignment or go, no-go decision in one final meeting, that's not possible. So you really need to socialize your idea, your roadmap, and work in these concentric circles so that you have your vision already aligned with your different stakeholders, and you can go into the final meeting to just get a formal yes to your plan. And last but not the least is get a few wins under your belt. It's not really difficult to build relationship with stakeholders. I definitely mentioned a lot more formal points, but the stakeholder and you are working towards the goal. So get alignment and get this assumptions, clarification, and get wins under your belt. That's when you will build that trust. That's when you'll build that rapport, and that's when you will have to. That's when you'll get that easygoing method of launching your products. So get few wins under your belt. I want to end the talk by saying a PM's life is, on the left we see, this is what we've been taught through our theoretical books. It's an intersection of UX, tech, business, but really it's the opposite, where we're juggling a lot of things that we're doing: stakeholder management, go-to-market, execution strategy, etc. But we definitely want to add stakeholder management to that swing to balance out our product launch. If I need you to take anything away from this talk, 4 important points: build a relationship with your stakeholders, focus on getting wins to make the stakeholder look good, bring your stakeholders along your journey, and socialize the product. I think if we can try and get these 4 out of our door, I would be 100% sure that our product launches would be successful. I'll end my talk by saying creating stakeholder alignment is not an obstacle to our job, it's our job. Thank you.
Cool. Do we have any questions? I actually have a question. I'll start off with that.
Sure.
And I'm trying to formulate in a way where you can't say it depends, because I think that's the answer we've been hearing a lot since morning. So could you give an example of a conflict that happens between stakeholders, and how do you manage when there's like contrast between 2 stakeholders? What's like maybe some practical examples and that could help us understand managing conflict?
Yeah, I would say that's a classic problem. Thank you for your question. That's a classic problem that I have seen. So first thing I would do is to understand what's my role in the 2 stakeholders conflicting, where am I sitting, because like I said earlier in my talk, it might vary from which domain you're in, which part of the organization you're in, etc. So first understand what my role in that conversation is. And the second one is talk to both the stakeholders one-on-one, where I try to understand like what is stakeholder A saying and what is stakeholder B saying, and try to analyze what are the points of conflict. And on top of that, what I would do is, once I have an understanding of, okay, these are the data points, or this is where the misalignment or conflict is, the third step is what I would do is get both of them together and try to solve out based on the data points that I've collected. I have often seen in my experience that everybody's trying to build towards the same goal. So any data points that you can come up with and justify and have logical reasoning and get them together helps you really resolve those conflicts. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's us. Do we have any questions for Saba?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Thank you for your question. That's a great question. I would say when I mean focus on getting few wins is when you are building a product, you want to be making sure that you are building a product that is associated with everyone's name. It's not something that is just associated with you. So when you have a product that is having collaboration from all your stakeholders, you put it out saying, okay, this product is launched by this team. And when you see those results come out as part of your product, launches, you definitely want to make sure that you have given the credit to your team and make the stakeholder look good. So when you can make your stakeholder look good because of the work that you and your team have done, you would try and you would have built more trust and relationship with that stakeholder. Most often in my career, what I have seen is stakeholders are definitely looking to get the credibility with the product work which you're doing from your product team. So if you can get those wins and have them also get the forefront, that'll help you get this relationship out, and it'll help you in your future launches as well.
Any more
Happy to
questions?
take in if any other questions. Go ahead.
So maybe one has you, but like, what do you do if in certain case like you're working with, let's say, 5 stakeholders, and one of them gets replaced by a new person who's coming in with their new vision, and they want to do something different than what the team has kind of defined to do or like aligned to do in the first place. So that kind of misalignment and that change in direction pushed by one stakeholder, how do you handle it?
Yeah. Like you said, it's a curveball. There are multiple factors that are involved there. But I have also seen a situation like that where there is a new exec who's being hired and they come in with their own vision and they want to be having their own direction. I would say it depends. To Mohammad's point, my answer would be it depends here, because what is the previous vision or prior vision that the company was working towards, and what is the goal that you're trying to have? And with this new exec or stakeholder coming in, what is their vision and what is their goal? It's important for us as product managers to understand the why, like we work on, and try to understand what is that person, new stakeholder's vision, and why is that the vision. Most often than not, I've seen a lot of time it overlaps. It's just the different ways of doing it. Stakeholder A likes it in the X way and stakeholder B likes it in the Y way. But most often than not, it's a collective goal that people have. So if we can get that, that would be great. And if we feel the goals are different, then communication and trying to understand the why behind it is most helpful there.
One more question.
Go ahead.
One of the slides you talked about alignment on the outcomes and to achieve an outcome. Can you elaborate on that? What exactly is the difference?
Yeah, sure. So what I meant there was when we are working with different stakeholders who might be in different domains, different sub-orgs, it's important to understand what is your goal, what is, if they're in a different domain, what is their goal, and are we as a company having the similar vision. So when I say outcomes, when you're in different domains, it so happens that your outcomes can be different. Maybe, for example, I can give an example. If I'm working in a front-end team, my goal might be, or my metric might be different, measured differently versus if you are dependent on a back-end team, their outcome might be different. But eventually, it's going to tie up to the same metric or business goal that you're trying to work on. So my idea there was that you need to have alignment on the outcomes that your team and the other teams are working on, which will eventually tie up to your company's vision.
Cool. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good day.